Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the 6th canto, chapter 2, text 23. 6-23. Tam vivakshum abhitretya Tam vivakshum abhitretya Mahapurusha kinkara Sahasa pashyatastasya Tatra tathadirega Tam vivakshum abhipretya Mahapurusha kinkara Sahasa pashyatastasya Tatra tathadirega Tam vivakshum abhipretya Mahapurusha kinkara Sahasa pashyatastasya Tatra tathadirega Tam vivakshum abhipretya Mahapurusha kinkara Sahasa pashyatastasya Tatra tathadirega Tam vivakshum abhipretya Mahapurusha kinkara Sahasa pashyatastasya Tatra tathadirega Mataji's. Tam vivakshum abhipretya Mahapurusha kinkara Sahasa pashyatasya Tatra tathadirega
Don't sleep. Get out.
Him, Ajamil, Vivakshum, desiring to speak, Abhipretya, understanding, Mahapurusha kinkaraha, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, Sahasa, suddenly, Pashyata Zasya, while he looked on, Tatra, there, Antar Dadire, disappeared. Another, O sinless Maharaj Parikshit. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Please repeat the translation. O sinless Maharaj Parikshit. The order carriers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Vishnu Dutas, saw that Ajamil was attempting to say something, and thus they suddenly disappeared from his presence. Purport. The Shastras say, Papishta ye durachara deva brahmana nindakaha apatya bhojanastesha akale maranam dhruvam. For persons who are papishta, very sinful, and durachara, misbehaved or very unclean in their habits, who are against the existence of God, who disrespect Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, and and who eat anything and everything, untimely death is sure. It is said that in Kali Yuga, one has a maximum lifetime of 100 years. But as people become degraded, the duration of their lives decreases. Because Ajamil was now free from all sinful reactions, his lifetime was extended, even though he was to have died immediately. When the Vishnudutas saw Ajamil trying to say something to them, they disappeared to give him a chance to glorify the Supreme Lord. Since all his sinful reactions had been vanquished, he was now prepared to glorify the Lord. Indeed, one cannot glorify the Lord unless one is completely free from all sinful activities. This is confirmed by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita 7:28. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te tvantamoha nirmukta bhajante mam vridavrata. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and who are free from the duality of delusion, engage themselves in my service with determination. The Vishnudutas made Ajamil aware of devotional service so that he might immediately become fit to return home back to Godhead. To increase his eagerness to glorify the Lord, they disappeared so that he would feel separation in their absence. In the mode of separation, glorification of the Lord is very intense. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaryam Kadati Swapadamaryam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sahadana Raghunatham Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhartinamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Madhuro Jagadate Gopesha Gopika Nanda Radha Radha Namostute Taptakanchana Gauranga Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Namo Mahamadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaure Vishe Namaha Mancha Prabhupada Kripa Sindhu Vyameva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we are continuing with this very nice chapter entitled The Ajamil Delivered by the Vishnudutas. The chapter doesn't say Ajamil delivered by Vishnu. It says that he is delivered by Vishnudutas. Yes, the Lord is the person who will deliver us back to Godhead. But it is very clear here that without the mercy of the devotees like the Vishnudutas, we cannot be delivered. Very important. I don't have Prasnava Prabhu here today, but are you okay if I just speak in English? I think most of us understand, so we should be okay. So we should understand one very important point. The Vishnudutas are considered to be the order carriers of Lord Vishnu. If you read here, the direct translation is that the Vishnudutas are the order carriers of the Lord. When we say order carriers, it means they carry out the orders of Krishna. In other words, whatever instructions Krishna gives them, they will carry out. So actually, the order carriers of Krishna or Vishnu, they are considered to be very dear to the Lord. Very dear. I think if you read the last verse of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, we all know the verse, Yetu dharmamritam vidam yatoktam paryupasate shraddhana madparama bhaktaste divabe priyaha. In that verse, in the 20th chapter, in the 12:20 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says very nicely the same point about the devotees of the Lord. He says, those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage in my devotional service. This is very important. Those who follow this path. In other words, the Vishnu Dutas, they are qualified to deliver anyone because they themselves are following the path. And this path of Krishna is considered to be imperishable. Any other path that we take, Prabhu's Mataji's, that path which doesn't have Krishna, it will perish. So whatever attempts we do which doesn't have Krishna in that path, we will perish, the path will also perish. So sometimes we take up an endeavor and we don't realize that the endeavor is doomed to perish because in that path, in our endeavor, we do not have Krishna. So that's why in 12:20 it is stated that those who follow devotional service is an imperishable path. This is very important point. Any other form of activity, whether it is using knowledge for Krishna, action in Krishna consciousness, there must be Krishna consciousness. The denominator which is common is actually Krishna consciousness. Sometimes there's a misconception when people read the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is speaking about Karma Yoga, he's speaking about Jnana Yoga. But the fact is, the declaration in Bhagavad Gita is that even if we perform Karma Yoga, if we perform work and activities, the fact remains that that work and activities must have devotion. If there is no devotion, then it is not an imperishable path. That's why the mental speculators cannot advance in the path, because the path of mental speculation is that they will always perish. Today you will speculate on one thing, tomorrow you will speculate on something else, and the day you speculate on something other than that other thing that you thought about has perished actually. So actually, except for devotional service which is eternal, every other path is actually considered to be perishable. So the Vishnu Dutas are considered great devotees of the Lord because they follow the imperishable path of devotional service, which is why they could save Ajamya. If we do not follow the imperishable path of devotional service, we will not be able to save ourselves, and we cannot save those who are depending on us. You see the point? So it's very important for us. Yetu dharma amrita. This is the path which is amrita and which is filled with dharma. Yetu dharma amrita yedam. This is the path actually. And this path is imperishable. And the quality of the Vishnu Dutta is that they completely engage themselves in the service of the Lord. So when Vishnu sent them, because they had heard Ajamil chant the name Narayana, without any questions, with full faith, they completely engaged themselves in that service. So that's why Srila Prabhupada told us, it doesn't matter whether your service is big or your service is small. It doesn't matter whether your service is seen or your service is unseen. It doesn't matter if your service is glamorous or if your service is simple. The most important thing is you are fully engaged in performing that service. If you are half-hearted in your service, then your devotional service, your devotion is also half-hearted. But if you take up something very small, which may not be seen by others, Like for example, in Rajkot, we are going around in so many programs, right? We went to Rajabai's program in open air. So many things had to be prepared, and a team of devotees did all that before we descended. And we never saw them doing it. And yet quietly, all these young devotees, they just came together and they set up everything. And after setting up everything, they did not linger to get any adoration or faith. They just dropped everything and went on to the next service. That is the Vishnu Dutta mentality. That is Vishnu Dutta mentality. That they are not lingering, but they are fully engaged. And they are not waiting for the name, the fame, or the glory. They just want to do it for Krishna. That's it. Or they want to do it to please the spiritual master. So sometimes because of the material tendencies in our heart, we want appreciation for what we do. Nothing wrong in being appreciative. I think devotees must appreciate other devotees. But it is the duty of the devotees to see good and appreciate other devotees. But it is not the duty of those devotees to expect the appreciation. If they expect the appreciation, then what happens is they will actually want glorification for themselves. The Vishnu Duttas decided to leave Ajamil in this case because Prabhupada nicely writes in the purport, they did not want him to glorify them. When Ajamil saw the Vishnu Duttas saving him, speaking with so much authority in Shastras, of course in his heart he wanted to appreciate them and he wanted to glorify them. But the Vishnu Duttas immediately left. In this verse, when they saw that he was going to say something, they left. They left. And they did not want him to waste his time, so to speak, glorifying them. That was their mood. That was their mood. So it's very important that Vishnu Duttas completely engage themselves with faith in Krishna. You can only give someone faith if you have faith yourself. Isn't it true? If you don't have faith in something, how can you transmit that faith to the other person? Supposing you are going to cross over, a deep hole, and then you jump over and you make it. And now the other person is going to jump, and you tell him, actually, I was not sure whether I could make it. You have just made him lose his confidence, isn't it? What you should be saying is, I jumped. It was possible, so you can do it too. And therefore you do it. So therefore, the devotees of the Lord, not only do they engage themselves completely with faith in Krishna, but they are able to transmit this faith to others. The Vishnu Duttas, by arguing against the Yamadutas, what did they do? They actually instilled faith in Ajamil. That's what they did. Unknown to Ajamil, by destroying the arguments put forward by Yamadutas and giving sound principles of dharma, right? Dharma, devotional service. They instilled faith in the heart of Ajamil. Even Ajamil did not know that, but that's what they did. Why? Yetu dharmamritam idam. Shraddha-dhana. They have faith. And this Shraddha-dhana is faith on Mat Param. It's on the highest truth, which is Krishna. And so 12:20 tells us that they made Krishna the supreme goal. Because the Vishnu Duttas made Krishna the supreme goal, they could transmit this to the other devotee. This is very important. As preachers, sometimes we try very hard to make the other party, right, Krishna conscious. But we can only make them Krishna conscious if we ourselves are Krishna conscious. You can only give someone $5 if you have $5 in your pocket. If someone asks for 6 and you have 5, you cannot give him 6. You can only give him 5. That's why the strength of a spiritual master and the extent of a spiritual master's faith will determine how much the spiritual master can deliver the disciple. Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion, if the spiritual master is a Kanishta Adhikari, how can he elevate a devotee to become a Madhyama Adhikari? He cannot, because he himself is Kanishta. And if a spiritual master is Madhyama Adhikari, then he cannot make someone Uttama Adhikari. He can only bring him to the level of his realization. So therefore, we must be clear that not only should we perfect our devotional service, but we should perfect it not just for ourselves, so that we can transmit this science effectively to someone else. The Vishnudutas fulfilled that, and that's why Ajamil woke up. And not only did he wake up, Bhagavatam tells us he was given so much knowledge that he was freed of all sins. And that is why in this verse, if you look, it's very interesting. Parikshit Maharaj is described here as Anaga, or sinless Maharaj Parikshit. You see how important that is? It is, in other words, Shukdev Goswami is addressing Parikshit Maharaj as Anaga, or sinless one, because he is reminded of the fact that up till that point, Ajamil had so much sins. So much sins that even the Yamaduta's fire was not enough to keep track of his sinful activities. But in one stroke of actually the Vishnudutas coming and speaking about Bhagavatam and Dharmic, Sastric, Bhagavata principles, Ajamil's sinful reactions left, just like the Yamadutas left. So that's why Maharaj said, when the Vishnudutas came and the Yamadutas left, the Yamadutas had to leave with all the sins of Ajamil. And the greatness of Ajamil was left for him when the Vishnudutas simply left. What an amazing scenario it is actually. The Vishnudutas did not have to carry the sins of Ajamil. The Yamadutas were made to carry it because they could not counteract the Vishnudutas. You see the point? So it's a very powerful scene actually that happened for Ajamil. So this point is very important. And in the purport of 1220, Srila Prabhupada makes a very outstanding statement. He says in that purport that the entire chapter, he's summarizing chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. And you know, Maharaj made us study chapter 12 so much. But in the last purport of chapter 12, Srila Prabhupada defines chapter 12 with a very important point. He says, what chapter 12 is trying to tell us is that through good association, one develops attachment for pure devotional service. And then one will accept a pure or bona fide spiritual master. Actually, you will not find what Prabhupada is saying in the purport explicitly in any of the shlokas in chapter 12. And yet Prabhupada ends the entire chapter 12 stating this as the crystallization of what chapter 12 is about. This gives you the idea of what an acharya can see and what we are failing to see, you see. So Prabhupada says, if you really want to take up devotional service, you need good association. That's what you need. And why is that relevant to this shloka today? Because Ajamil got the best association. He got the association of none other than the order carriers of Lord Vishnu himself. They came and they gave him sadhu sangha. They did not come to save him from Yamadutas. Please remember that. They came to give him sadhu sangha. And because they gave him sadhu sangha, he was delivered from the clutches of Yamadutas. That is the correct principle. They did not just come and drag him. They gave him the ability for him to free himself. They gave him good association. That is very important. You know, there's this saying, isn't it? If supposing farmers are very poor, you can either do two things with farmers who are very poor. You can go and donate Lakshmi for them, or you can teach them proper methods by which their farming becomes better. Which one is better? Which is more long-lasting? The giving money may look like a quick fix-it, but when the money runs out, they will go back to the same position. In the same way for devotional service, we can very quick fix. We can find some principles of devotional service and just execute them. But the real way to grow in devotional service is to always take good association. In that way, we will actually grow. So Ajamil had only a few moments of good association. Few moments. I asked Maharaj, how long, Maharaj, do you think the conversation between Yamadutas and Vishnudutas took place? What would have been the length of time? And Maharaj said it would hardly have been a few minutes. Few minutes. But in those few minutes, because of the sadhu sangha of Vishnudutas, Ajamil came to his senses. In the verse before, it says he came to his senses. In other words, he woke up. He woke up and he understood that what have I been doing? I'm 88 years old and I spent a better part of my life not remembering Krishna. How did this come? This did not come because of the fear of the Yamadutas. Please understand that. It did not. The fear of the Yamadutas caused him to chant Narayana. But the deliverance came because of the Vishnudutas' good association. That is what happened. That is what happened. So therefore, when we want to really progress, in 12th chapter, in the 20th verse, Prabhupada says, take good association. And what is the best association to take? Except one who is more advanced than you. That is the meaning of a spiritual master. Someone who guides you is one who is more advanced than you. It doesn't have to be formal initiation. A bona fide spiritual master doesn't mean Diksha Guru. This is a misconception that we have. We think bona fide spiritual master means I must immediately sit before the fire and get the name. No. What is the point of getting the name if you don't get the association? It's pointless. You cannot just get the name and the spiritual master is one end. You are here. You see him, he sees you. But where is the association? Until there is association, there is no way to progress. Therefore, there must be interaction. Interaction means association. There must be association. There must be interaction with the spiritual master's instructions. Whether you have taken Diksha from him or Siksha from him doesn't matter. Are you following the instructions? That is what matters. So we make a mistake in Bhagavatam that every time you read the phrase bona fide spiritual master, Maharaj told us bona fide spiritual master doesn't equal to Diksha Guru. Bona fide spiritual master means Siksha Guru. And a Siksha Guru may give Diksha. But Siksha is ultimately what a Diksha Guru or Siksha Guru will be giving. I hope that is very clear. That is what Srila Prabhupada is giving us. It's very clear. So the Vishnudutas actually initiated Ajamil's devotional service once again. He started it when he was very young, then he left it. But now they revived it again for him. And they became his spiritual masters. So this is very important. Sometimes we are so proud of the fact that we are initiated. But how much of the instructions of the initiating spiritual master are we actually imbibing? That is the key. Not that we are initiated, but how much are we imbibing it? To that extent, we are taking association. And to that extent, we will become anaga. Anaga means sinless. To the extent of following the orders of the spiritual master, to that extent sin will leave our hearts. That is the way to grow. And Prabhupada says that if we approach a spiritual master, we should beg to hear and chant and observe the regulative principles of devotional service. Therefore, we become attached to the words of the spiritual master and become engaged in his service. So this is the first point that we must understand. The second point that's very important is how Prabhupada says in the purport that the Vishnudutas left immediately. Actually, we would think, what's wrong with them staying around? I've given you association, come, let's sit down for a while. Ajamil, you were saved, and Ajamil says, please stay for prasadam. Prabhu, you came, I did not know you were here. Sorry, I just continued. Should I continue? Anyway, I'm going to finish soon. So anyway, it is stated here, the Vishnu Dutas could have stayed. They could have stayed. If someone wants to talk to us, for example, we also stay back. After program, we like to stay back and we like to talk. And sometimes in programs, we are very happy after we finish program because we are waiting for people to come and tell us, what a nice class it was. Oh, such a nice one, such nice realizations. So we want to linger, hoping that some nice words will come after speaking actually. After Kirtan also we want to linger. Prabhu, that was ecstatic Kirtan. But actually, the Vishnu Dutas, they showed us one very important principle, which especially for the Singapore Yatra that came, and we have been doing this for a few days now, is the same principle we have been discussing. It is the principle of detachment. It's the principle of renunciation. It is an Aishwarya of Krishna to be able to walk away when you think you should stay. That is renunciation. Renunciation is not, I walk away because I'm forced to walk away. That is not renunciation. That's expulsion. Let's wait until all that noise stops. Are we okay? So the problem sometimes is we don't know when to stop something. Sometimes even as preachers we have the same problem. We preach to someone Krishna consciousness. Then we control their lives. Then we tell them we must do it this way, that way, do it this way, that way. Then even if they want to take a breath, we tell them you have to tell us you're going to do it. Then we engineer their life for them. Then we expect them to come back to us. Then we tell them, why did you do this without taking my permission? There is no principle of renunciation. There is no principle of detachment. The preacher does not become preacher. The preacher becomes controller. And there's a difference between preacher and controller. Maharaj told us to preach means you have to reach. To reach something doesn't mean you have to hold it forever. You just have to touch it, Maharaj said. Ignite the fire, fan the flame, and walk. That's what you should do. That is what you should do. And if something else is necessary, those whom you have reached out to, they will reach out to you again. And when they reach out to you again, you reach out to them again. That is preaching. That is preaching. I feel this is a very important point that Maharaj shared with us. And we saw it in Maharaj's life also. Anywhere he went, he preached, he reached. And after speaking, he left. He never lingered. And he always told us also don't linger. So therefore, after classes, when we are finished, unless there are any questions to be there, we should walk. We should not. There's no other business for us actually. We just move and we go on to the next thing. We are just sowing seeds. Krishna is growing them. This is very important. We are sowing seeds. Krishna is growing them. The Vishnu Duta showed. Not a moment more they stayed. They just left. Because they were humble and they did not want glorification. This is very important. So whenever we want to preach to someone, we should not think that these are my people. You may feel responsible for them, but they are not yours. You cannot control their movements. You can't control your own movement. You can't control their blood pressure. You can't control anything. But preachers sometimes get into the problem of wanting to control everything. It's very difficult. Very difficult. For example, we all came the tour, isn't it? How difficult it is, Prabhu, to get everyone together. It tells us that we cannot control anything actually. All we can do is there's a bus, please get on the bus. Even if we stand upside down on our head, until they get into the bus, we are at their mercy. We can't do anything. And after getting on the bus, 4 people need to use toilet. And 3 people need to use toilet. It's like that. That is life. Going into the bus is just like life. It's the way it is. So Vishnu Buddhas teaches the best example. Once you have done your preaching, please, the people you preach to are not yours. Leave them be, and they will come back to you. Try more harder to control them, and they will run away from you. They will run away from you. This is actual renunciation. This is the way we become peaceful. We are not disturbed, they are not disturbed. Vishnu Dutas, with a smile, they would leave. They left very happy. And the same Vishnu Dutas would come back when Ajamil perfected his life. When he was ready to go back to Godhead, the same Vishnu Dutas, Nanda Sunanda, they would come back. They would come back. They did not stay on. How are you doing? Okay, now today, send me a report. How many rounds you're doing? What you're doing? Nothing they did. They left and they came back. No sadhana card, nothing. They just left and they came back. And when they did that, everything was perfect. Just like how Krishna decided to wind down the Yadu dynasty, he did not lament over it. He just walked away from it. When Kalyavana was shouting and hurling abuse at Krishna, what did Krishna do? Krishna just walked, Arjuna. He just walked. That's all he did. He just kept walking. So Vishnu Dutas did something very nice. And the second point about Vishnu Dutas, which is very important, is that they did not want to accept glorification for themselves. This is what Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam. And that is why we don't linger. That is the value of renunciation. People ask, what is the value of renunciation? The value of renunciation is that you will not be implicated in self-glorification. The value of renunciation is that all glorification will be given automatically at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in that way, you are not implicated. Otherwise, you are implicated. This is very important point, right? And that is why Nivritta Darshai Upagiyamana. You know this verse, right? In this verse, it is so nicely stated. Glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be performed. It must be performed. But it must be performed in parampara. That is, from spiritual master to disciple. That is how glorification must be done. In other words, we do not glorify in a sentimental way. And we do not receive glorification based on sentiment also. Srila Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, everyone is glorifying you. How do you handle the glorification? And Prabhupada said, whatever credit that I am getting, I immediately offer it at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. What does Prabhupada say? In other words, he says, immediately I offer it. I don't let the glorification linger. In other words, Prabhupada exhibited the quality of renunciation when he made this statement. You see the point? He exhibited the quality of renunciation when he made this statement. That is the same thing the Vishnu Dutas are doing. And that's what whole Bhagavatam is about actually. In Bhagavatam, all the great devotees exhibited the quality of renunciation. They did. Parikshit Maharaj renounced and he accepted his situation and he renounced. He did not linger. He just walked to the banks of Ganges, sat down and waited for Shukadeva Goswami. That's it. And after Shukadeva Goswami spoke Bhagavatam, and when he would see Parikshit Maharaj being burnt, but his soul had already left, what did Shukadeva Goswami do? He did not linger. He left. He finished his job of speaking Bhagavatam and he left. He did not linger again. So you see, the quality of renunciation is always there. When Vritasur was fighting on the battle with Indra, he could have defeated Indra, but he was surrendered to the will of Krishna, and therefore he exhibited the quality of renunciation on the battlefield. And that again is the perfection of life. So you can see that the behavior of the devotees of the Lord are very consistent. Very consistent. If you want to be convinced of something, you have to see consistency actually. Then you become convinced this is going to work. Because every day this person is sitting, every day this person is speaking, every day this person is chanting. So Bhagavatam is full of consistency. Bhagavatam is not full of spontaneity. You realize that? There's nothing spontaneous in Bhagavatam. Everything that happens in Bhagavatam is consistent. It is very consistent. And this is what Prabhupada said is the regulative principles of devotional service. That we follow something very strictly, very rigidly. That's the word Prabhupada used. And you will see perfection. That is renunciation. And so the order carriers of the Lord, they were able to walk away. Why? Because of two things. They were not interested in name, and they were not interested in fame. It was not important to them. And they were not interested in being glorified. You all remember Madhavendra Puri? Madhavendra Puri is the father of devotional service. And when he was in the pastime of receiving the sweet rice from Shirachor Gopinath, his name spread far and wide. And immediately when he heard that people wanted to see him, he left the Dharamshala and he went quickly to the next village. He was hoping to run away before people would come to see him. You know, most people would stay back and wait for people to come and say, amazing, wonderful, but he left. In the night he left. But because he did not want the name and fame, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, name and fame went ahead of him. So then every village he went until he reached Jagannath Puri, the word had already spread. This is Madhavendra Puri. He did not want it, and he got it. That's why Prabhupada says, to those who do not require or do not demand anything, and to those who are already renounced, all glories come to them actually. Right? Automatically, because they are not attached to it. So the Vishnudutas today are glorified. Today we are glorifying the Vishnudutas. If they were here, they would run away. They won't stay here. Right? I don't think they are here at the moment because no one's dying. Right? So far I don't see anyone looking like they're going to die. But if they were here, they would leave. They would not stay. They would not stay. And the reason they could do that is because of that very famous verse. Yesterday, I think, Prabhu, you had done that. Kalchaka Prabhu was nicely saying, you know, you saw two verses behind Maharaj. Namani anantasya patata patan guyani mantrani kritani chasvaram tam paryatas sushtamana prabha kalam pratikshan vimado vimatsara. The last three lines. What are the qualities of the devotee? The qualities of the devotee who repeatedly recites Krishna's names, who's traveling all over the world, who does not linger. That's why they are traveling. Narthamuni never lingers anywhere. He just moves and travels and travels and travels. Such a person can travel in that way because they are fully self-satisfied, they are humble, and they are non-envious. These are the three qualities that define the Vishnudutas. The Vishnudutas were very humble. They were not envious of anyone. They were not even envious of Yamadutas actually. They just came to do their duty. And they are fully satisfied in performing their duty. That is why they are glorified today. That's a very important point. So when we are actually following this principle of renunciation and we don't linger, you will find that we'll become very satisfied. You'll also find that we're not envious. Maharaj told me a very nice point. You need time to become envious. You need time to become envious of someone. Think about it. When you have time, that is when you start thinking of someone. And that is when you become envious actually. Isn't it true? Without the presence of time, there is no space for envy. It's a very deep point actually. And that is why we should engage ourselves with no time to spare. No time to spare. Just enough to keep body and soul together, but no time to spare. The moment there is time to spare, envy will creep into the heart. Dissatisfaction will creep into the heart. Speculation will creep into the heart. And criticism will also creep into the heart. These are all things that the Vishnudutas avoided because they were completely engaged. This is a very important point. And the last point that's very nice is our business is to glorify Krishna. That is a very important point. All of us are here because we are here to glorify Krishna. Look at the darshan today of Radha Madhav. They are so beautiful because they are worthy of glorification. You know, how can people take selfies with Radha Madhav? Just think about it. I always thought it's crazy. People take selfies with, you take selfie with a human being, it's alright. You take selfie with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what is in your mind? Just think about it. How can we stand in the presence of the Lord? It's not possible. In the words of Chitraketu Maharaj in the 6th canto, 16th chapter, he says, I'm like a clover. A clover looks very bright in a dark cave. But in the presence of the powerful sun, you won't even know where the clover is actually. So how can we compare, stand there and take a selfie with Radha Madhav? We can't. And luckily, they have their no selfie. Very good. No selfie. Right? Because selfie is all about self. And glorification is about Krishna. Selfie is about self, but glorification is about Krishna. That is very important. And those who glorify Krishna, they will actually be able to clean themselves of all trace of misfortune. Very important. Sankirtyamano Bhagavananantaha Shutanubhavo Vyasanam Hipumsa Praveshya Chittam Vidunoti Ashesham Yatha Tamo Arko Brahmivati Vati. When people properly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is what Parikshit Maharaj is being told. When people properly glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or if you cannot glorify Him, just hear about His power, then what happens? The Lord, Pravishya Chittam, He personally enters into our hearts and He will cleanse all misfortune, every trace, just like the sun can remove darkness and the clouds and the powerful wind can drive away the clouds. So this is the point that is being stated in this beautiful shloka. Last point, the Vishnudutas made Ajamil aware of devotional service. That is our duty. Just raise awareness of Bhakti and Krishna in the hearts of devotees. And then, to increase his eagerness to glorify Krishna, they disappeared. If they stayed on, he would be eager to glorify them. But by leaving, he became eager to glorify Krishna. And Prabhupada writes so nicely that in the mode of separation, glorification of the Lord is very intense. It's been so many years since we have been separated from Maharaj. Yesterday was Vyas Puja. Wasn't our separation causing more intensity of our glorification? If you think about it, it actually increases our glorification of Krishna and of the devotees. So separation is not a bad thing. Separation helps us in devotional service. And that is why even the Lord appeared to Narada as a small boy in the forest, just briefly. And then he said that now you will never see me again, but this is to increase your separation from me. The gopis did not see Krishna for years and years and years and years. And when they finally went to see him in Dwarka, it was such a difficult time for them because the separation had been so long. But the separation was so sweet that never a day went by that they did not intensely remember Krishna. And that is our duty. We must become instruments to bring about this feeling of separation between Lord and the devotees. Between Lord and Krishna. Between Lord and the devotees, yes. Between the Supreme Lord and devotees. That is our duty. To help and guide everyone into the mood of this separation. And not to make them feel morose that there is separation. So that is why Ajamil did not become morose. He became happy because now he had devotion service. And he continued with it and he finished and passed his time. And at the end of it, again he got nice darshan and association of the Vishnu Pitas. And he went back home to Godhead. Jai Dattara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Srila Gurudev ki Nitai Gaura Premanande. Okay, so it's exactly 2 minutes before 9 o'clock. So are there any questions? Any